To the untrained eye, Joe Rogan seems to have achieved anything he's wanted in life.
First of all, I have what you call fuck you money. And if you have fuck you money, you don't say fuck you. What's the point of having the fuck you money?
But in reality, there are many aspects of Rogan's life that he's unwilling to accept. And when you have hundreds of millions of dollars, it's very easy to live a life full of delusion. For starters, Joe Rogan truly believes that there are only 50 untrained civilians in the world that could beat him in a fight to the death.
Okay.
How many people on Earth do you think could kill you that aren't trained?
Oh, very few.
Like,
that aren't trained?
that just you would meet on the street that could beat you?
People that aren't trained? No, it's not that many.
100, to be generous.
Maybe.
50.
Something along those lines.
Let that sink in. Joe, the 5'5" podcaster, truly believes he's so violent and skilled in combat that, out of 8 billion people in the world, there are only 50 that could beat him in a fight. And Joe takes this delusion even further when he once claimed that he has violence in his DNA, saying that he comes from a long bloodline of warriors.
Yeah, there's a lot of violence in me, for sure. I don't know if it's genetic or learned or, I mean, to be prejudiced against myself, I look like a violent person. You know, if I didn't know me, and just even the way I'm built, not even just the working out part, just the size of my hands and like there's the width of my shoulders, like there's most likely a lot of violence in my history, in my past, in my ancestry.
Like, first of all, warriors in ancient history would probably have to be a bit taller than 5'5" to even be considered a threat. Like, when I look at Joe, my first thoughts aren't, man, that guy probably has a long history of violence in his DNA, like they would be for someone like Hafthor Bjornsson or Francis Ngannou. Second of all, wouldn't every human on Earth technically have violence in their DNA? I mean, if you're alive right now, it's almost certain that your ancestors were successful in battle. So to brag about this is just kind of bizarre. And this brings me to my next point. Another one of Joe Rogan's wild delusions is that he's completely convinced that he's taller than he really is, stating in a podcast that he's 5'8".
Yeah, I got a bunch of custom-made suits.
All right.
Because I can't wear regular suits. I don't fit in them, you know? There's not a lot of 200-pound, 5'8" dudes.
Like, I might believe he's 5'8" when he wears his max lift Hokas, but there are many examples that debunk these claims. Like, for instance, here he is standing next to a barefoot Davison Figueiredo, a UFC fighter whose official height is listed at 5'5". Another time his height was debunked was by Bobby Lee's ex-girlfriend, Kalila Kuhn.
Joe is shockingly small.
He's not as short as they think that he is, though.
I think he's
taller than me.
No, he's not,
Yes,
Annie.
he
Because you and I are the same height, and when I go in to hug him, he's definitely shorter than me.
Joe Rogan is
He's not 5'8". He
is.
absolutely not. Because
No,
I'm
he
5'8".
is.
I'm 5'8", and I hug down.
So although Joe Rogan's height will forever remain a mystery, it's just hard to believe him when he says he's 5'8". Another bizarre delusion of Joe Rogan's is that he thinks he has a finely tuned bullshit detector.
My personality that is just immune to bullshit, when bullshit hits me, I go, oh, I know what this is.
Which is completely outrageous considering there are countless occasions of him getting fact-checked in real time on his podcast.
You know that volcano that just erupted? There was more CO2 released from that one volcano erupting than everything human beings have ever done.
Really? Where did you find that?
Fact-checked, volcanoes do not produce more CO2 emissions than human activity.
I mean, if this bullshit detector really worked, we'd be hearing way less about Joe Rogan raving about the benefits of cold plunges, saunas, and carnivore diets, which Joe believes are essential to maintaining his Spartan physique. And this delusion is so strong that one time, Joe's dear friend Louis C.K. tried to kindly hint to Joe that he's being delusional with all this cold plunge sauna crap.
I was watching this video where these guys were talking about, Lex Friedman and Andrew Huberman were talking about saunas and cold plunges and stuff like that, and like the benefits of it. They're two scientists.
Yeah.
They're talking about the provable benefits, heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins. And then I'm reading the comments where some guy was like, yeah, well, you guys aren't talking about is how much it costs to buy a sauna. You're making it seem like it's all free. And like what are you supposed to do? Like, every fucking thing? Like, I'm sorry if you're broke.
I'm sorry if you're broke.
No, you have the conversation for people that can live that way.
Well, I mean, not just...
But it's just fun.
But it's not it's not impossible to achieve. We're not talking about buying a fucking Lamborghini.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that there's something wrong with talking about that stuff because other people can't afford it. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's actually part of why people are miserable is because they're actually it's a ridiculous conversation. It's not like the way the earth and the experience of like competing for food and oxygen and living on Earth, you know, and living in society and just being a person. We've got to some altitude here where we're having some stupid conversations that are just, you know, should I do a cold plunge or a sauna? Like, what the fuck is that? It's not that, like, it's not you should be ashamed because people can't afford it. I feel sorry for the guy in that conversation. It's like it's a ridiculous trying to find just the right balance because there's nothing really challenging you because you don't have any real problems and you're not on the earth. You're not standing on the earth anymore. You're in a bubble where you sort of like, maybe I'll try this and maybe I'll just do protein now and I'll do, you know what I mean? It's
Joe Rogan's fourth delusion is that he parades around as some sort of bastion of free speech, even though there are several examples of Joe being the exact opposite. Like when his legal team ever so desperately tried to take down the Elephant Graveyard's viral video reviewing Joe's most recent comedy special, Burn the Boats. Like, God forbid someone has an opinion. Like, movie critics, song critics, and even food critics have made entire careers out of being critical towards art. But as soon as anyone is critical of comedy, no. Now that crosses the line. So it seems that Joe's a supporter of free speech only when it's convenient for him. Another example of this is at Joe's comedy club, The Mothership, where you're basically forced to lock your phone in a box to be allowed inside. Like, for a guy that bleeds American freedom, it seems very controlling to go that far in order to guarantee nothing will be shared from the club. And finally, the last and certainly most outrageous belief of Joe Rogan's is that he truly believes he's an elite stand-up comedian.
I love comedians, and that's our tribe. Our tribe is comedians, and there's not that many of us. The real number, it's probably 1,000 worldwide. Yes, that's the best vibe, man. We're all in this together. There's not that many of us.
Yeah, there's not that many of us.
There's like 1,000 of us on Earth. Like really legitimate comics. There's 1,000 of us on Earth. There's maybe 1,000 comedians on Earth worth of fuck.
I think even 1,000.
No, I don't.
500.
But maybe. Let's just get crazy and say maybe there's a bunch of people that I don't know about.
Yeah.
How many authors are there?
Oh, I know.
There's a lot more.
Musicians?
How many musicians? How many doctors? How many
Actors?
lawyers? Yeah, there's a lot more. The real number of like a real legitimate professional comedian that can go up and do an hour and kill and has like maybe a following and can tour clubs and theaters and then colleges and then you get to like big theaters and arenas.
Right.
You get to arena. How many of those are there? How
Not
many guys?
many. Arenas, not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many for theaters. How many for theaters? Is there
I would
50?
say
100?
Yeah.
Maybe 100?
Probably less, man. Probably
Right.
less. Theaters,
So
less.
in this country, I mean, you know, I've talked about it with many comics. Like, how many guys in this country would you recommend your friend go see?
Right. When you put it that way, it's not that many. Yeah.
200?
Yeah.
200 guys, maybe, if
Yeah.
you really wrote them all out?
Yeah.
It's not a lot of humans.
No.
I say 200 guys. There's a lot of girls in there, too.
Yeah.
A lot of very funny girls. 200 humans. But it's not that many. There's 1 million doctors in this country. There's there's a lot of occupations. It's a very small tribe of people that are comics.
Which is insane coming from a guy who believes that yelling and humping is funny. So that's it for the video, guys. And if you made it this far in the video, make sure to subscribe and comment what topic you'd like to see me make a video about next.
I'm sorry if you're broke.
I'm sorry if you're broke.
Huge. The one I have here is huge. Yeah.
Wow, you use a small.
Yeah, but that's the best one they have.
I'm sorry if you're broke.